Before I even start this video with Ronda Rousey essentially calling wrestling fake, I want to start with a clip from my man CM Puls3, who had one of the best analysis and statements regarding this topic. I'm going to play that video for you real quick with his permission.
We're so far past even the reality era where now it's like we're deep into the territory of breaking kayfabe, where Ronda is cutting promos where she's saying she's going to disrespect the WWE, she's going to disrespect the fans, wrestling isn't real, I'm going to beat all these women up. And honestly, when it comes to someone like Ronda Rousey, that's best case scenario, because not only is she getting just nuclear heat for this, I mean, people on the internet are upset. She is getting nuclear heat for this.
Right now in the WWE, we are at a crossroads because WWE is invested in Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is a real fighter from the UFC. Back in 2012, the WWE invested in Brock Lesnar, who is also a UFC fighter, and was billed as a champion, as he was billed as a crossover, a dominant superstar who came back and jobbed out to John Cena and helped put over Triple H a bit, and ultimately would go on to be pretty damn dominant, and Paul Heyman would stand by his side. Fast forward 7 years now, and we are in a situation where Ronda Rousey, going into WrestleMania, is your WWE Raw Women's Champion. And she's breaking all sorts of fourth wall or kayfabe like everybody on the internet is freaking out about. But this is all happening at a time when WWE is changing, and they're in the process of changing. AEW is presenting their product as a sports competition where wins and losses matter. So Ronda Rousey is just vocally, in my opinion, saying what we've all been feeling. There's no reason why Kofi Kingston shouldn't have got the opportunity he did. Just storyline, if you're looking at things constantly with storylines, you may not be able to work them in. But in a situation where Mustafa Ali couldn't compete and then Kofi Kingston is inserted, that's what happens in sports. If you can't compete, somebody else steps up. In the NFL, when Le'Veon Bell doesn't sign his contract as one of the best running backs ever and is holding out for more money, and a guy like James Conner comes in and crushes it, everybody says you don't need Le'Veon Bell, but Le'Veon Bell is still a stud. James Conner just worked and did a great job and turned out to be one of the best running backs in the league. So when Ronda Rousey says, I'm not playing by your rules anymore, I'm here for myself, she's vocally saying out loud what I think a lot of people truly believe. If you are in this situation within the WWE the last couple years, things just don't make sense. When we can have tournaments like the Cruiserweight Championship or the Mae Young Classic, and you see these matches take place where they just pit athletes against athletes. In the matches, you may have wins or losses based on, say, an injury or psychology storyline. It goes back to when Sami Zayn faced Seth Rollins years ago, and Sami lost when he came up hobbling on a knee. Then the next year, they did it again, and Seth Rollins was made in an Iron Man match, and then Kofi Kingston's name was made in an Iron Man match based on a sport performance, based on the fact that he went out there. So heading into WrestleMania now, Becky Lynch is the fan favorite, or was, because of a moment, like Pulse said. Nia Jax made Becky Lynch. Nobody put Becky Lynch over more than Nia Jax's fist. But we all debated, or a lot of people did, that Nia Jax was reckless. But that moment is what catapulted Becky Lynch to stardom. The fact that Becky Lynch took a punch, whether it was worked, real, doesn't matter, and then she was bleeding from the face. It was an organic moment where you went, holy shit. And you loved it as a wrestling fan. Now, if WWE was never planning on that happening, and they were always, say, going Charlotte versus Ronda at WrestleMania, because remember, they've leaked this match in the past. In interviews for the last 2 or 3 years, everybody asked what the first main event would be. It was Charlotte. So again, if Becky gets shorted, it was Charlotte's destiny. If Becky's not in the match, it was the booking. It was their payoff. It was the destiny of what she's been saying, if that makes sense. Yeah, you want Becky. Becky came out of nowhere, and Becky could still be included this year. But we have 2 points from history to go from. Daniel Bryan's organic movement in 2014, which was not organic. I think WWE had always planned to do that, whether you believe it or not. I do. That's my personal payoff, and that's my personal take that it made sense to keep him away from the title. He beat John Cena, And then Orton and Triple H beat him up all year, and Batista came back, and Daniel Bryan overcame. But the second parallel is the following year, when everybody wanted Daniel Bryan. And at Fastlane, Daniel Bryan faced Roman Reigns. We all know how that came out, and I was one of the people at the time that tweeted we should cancel our network subscription. I got worked. It was never Daniel Bryan's spot. And at WrestleMania this year, I truly believe it's not Becky Lynch's spot. I believe WWE is in a tough position. Becky Lynch got so over in this moment thanks to the Nia Jax punch that WWE has to kind of force their plans. Meanwhile, if this is the 2014 Daniel Bryan and it was always meant to happen, you want the match. All of us fans are saying we knew it was going to be a triple threat because they've kind of been building it the entire time. At Survivor Series, Charlotte interfered with the kendo stick and cost the match that we wanted. This is one of those situations where in the WWE, when you look at the talent, you're always going to say somebody deserves it more than Ronda. Why doesn't Becky get that opportunity? Why doesn't Bayley? Why doesn't Sasha? Why doesn't Nia Jax? Why didn't Emma ever get the opportunity? Why didn't this superstar or that superstar? That is wrestling. You are literally working yourself up over the definition of pro wrestling. It's scripted. So when you say out loud or make it your argument, well, it's the booking's fault that, Becky Lynch is 8-21 on pay-per-views. Becky Lynch is 8-21. So when you come to me and say, Becky's better than Charlotte, she's been beating her butt lately, you're right. Before Becky Lynch beat Charlotte on pay-per-view, she was, I think, 5-20. Now she's 8-21. Meanwhile, Charlotte on pay-per-view is 25-13 as a record. Sasha Banks is 13-15, and Bayley is, I think, 9-10 or 8-9. What does that have to do with anything? WWE, when you go back, and personally, myself, when you go back and look at these storylines between Sasha, Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, they've been layered in very well. It's kind of like when The Shield, when Roman could beat Dean, or Dean could beat Roman, but Seth couldn't beat Dean, or Roman couldn't beat Seth, or that combination of layered storytelling is kind of like what happens in sports. But now we're at the payoff to this. We're at the point where Ronda Rousey snaps and says something that you know is going to piss off the fans. For us hardcore fans, we're intrigued. How dare you criticize our business? She knew exactly what buttons to push. The writers knew exactly what button to push to piss us off. But now, if you are investing in Ronda Rousey, if you always wanted her to bring in the casual appeal, all year she spent the time getting us to go, okay, Ronda's kind of got something. Ronda could be good. Ronda could do this, but her promos are weak. But my God, she's putting on great matches. Ronda hasn't had a bad match, and Ronda has proved that she belongs here. She absolutely is, and does deserve to be in the WWE. And now she can flip it right before WrestleMania, and she can bring in the casual fans. Because we're in a situation where I personally, and I know if you're a Becky Lynch fan, this is going to get the video disliked, I would much rather Charlotte versus Ronda happen this year. Honestly, I want that match to be the main event, and I want Ronda to come out on top. I want Becky Lynch to come out, and I want Becky Lynch to beat her so bad. I want, Becky Lynch to face Asuka at WrestleMania for the title. I want Becky Lynch to win the SmackDown title from Asuka. Then I want her to come out later in the night holding one championship, beat the crap out of Ronda Rousey. Everybody's booing the match, right? Because Asuka and Becky stole the show. She proved she was the man on the grandest stage of them all by overcoming Asuka, who she could not beat at the Royal Rumble. She couldn't. But it's also a great way to transition her to Raw, with Charlotte and Becky both going against Ronda in a triple threat. It makes sense. WWE could do this multiple ways. There is really no way to fail this storyline unless we never get Ronda versus Becky Lynch. Truthfully, it's not. Because Charlotte at WrestleMania, she beat Asuka. She beat the streak. But previously, she also couldn't beat Bayley. Bayley beat her at Fastlane, and again at WrestleMania, Bayley pinned Sasha. Or Bayley pinned Charlotte. Charlotte has yet to beat Bayley. It's those layers, you know what I'm talking about? So this year, they could go that route. They could legitimately give us Becky versus Asuka, where Becky wins back her belt, because Becky was the face of SmackDown Live. That's been her gimmick. Well, Charlotte was on Raw. Becky went to SmackDown and became the first SmackDown champion. Until eventually Alexa Bliss came over, and then you know how that goes. Every 6 months, Alexa Bliss gets the belt. But Becky still has unfinished business on SmackDown, and so does Charlotte. It's a perfect way to transition to give us Asuka versus Mandy or Asuka versus anybody else, and let's keep it simple with a triple threat. But if I want Becky versus Ronda, I want to clear Charlotte out first. So that's just my personal opinion on how I want this to go. I like Ronda crapping on the business because if we get the triple threat match that everybody knows is coming, you're going to want to see if Ronda can actually do what she says she's going to do. If you're Becky, you're cheering. If you're cheering for Becky, you want Becky to overcome both of them. And after the beating she's going to take, it's a natural payoff. If she comes up short, it was a triple threat match and they could always build towards Becky versus Ronda the following year for the title. Becky could come up short at WrestleMania and then she gets cascaded back to SmackDown while Charlotte's on Raw feuding with the likes of Ronda Rousey. Becky Lynch could carry SmackDown the entire year as champion, and Ronda Rousey could carry the entire Raw division as champion, and next year they could meet in a champion versus champion match and be the true WrestleMania main event we want. But that's a year off, and nobody likes waiting for a payoff. But the payoff we got with Ronda Rousey is she's going to bring in these casual fans. Because whether you like her or you hate her now, those casual fans are going to come in to see what WWE is all about. I have friends that only watch every year since Rock came back from WrestleMania 27. They watch one pay-per-view a year, and it's WrestleMania. You may not like Ronda Rousey, or you may think other people deserve an opportunity more, but those people that deserve that opportunity, if they don't have that connection to the mainstream like a Batista does now that he's in the Guardians of the Galaxy, or Ronda Rousey who was in the UFC and was on all those talk shows, you can't discount that, because when it comes to WrestleMania, you want the most eyeballs on your product. And there's no way you can get more eyeballs on your product than to have your champion, a UFC fighter, while her buddies are down in NXT fighting for real, carrying those titles, to be on the main roster bearing the entire company. Because like Paul said, anybody who steps up to Ronda Rousey will be instantly loved, and in a sports fashion, who can beat her? That's what we're going to have to wait and find out. Personally, I hope it's not Becky this year. I hope at Tampa Bay in Raymond James Stadium, Becky Lynch faces Ronda Rousey one-on-one, no triple threat, and maybe she's able to beat her next year. The man needs to be the man first. You can't just keep claiming it. But that's my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Let me know. Like you said, maybe you don't want to wait a year. Maybe WWE, you truly believe that they had this awesome moment like we all agree on. But is it the right time? We had Rock versus Stone Cold at WrestleMania 3 out of 5 years. It took a long time to finally get Rock to win, and it wasn't even for the belt. We may have to wait for this one, but God damn it if Ronda Rousey didn't do her job, because you know you're tuning in to either see her get her ass kicked or kick some ass. So until next time, it's your boy Tabimu, no fancy editing on this one. We decided to come talk like it is. Until next time, we will see you all later. Wow.